All right, we're just a couple minutes past, so I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Mike Rayleigh. I am PAC's in-house acoustician. And today's presentation in our series of monthly webinars is on how PAC can help address product cost and availability issues, probably a hot topic for all of us these days. So let's go ahead and get started. So I threw some headlines in here just in case anybody wasn't aware that there are lots of issues with supply chain and pricing and things like that going on in the building construction world these days. And I think we'll kind of open it up at the end of this presentation because it should be a shorter one. Maybe just have some sort of open discussion, tell some stories or whatever. Be interesting to hear the kind of issues that people are facing with product availability and price increases, how that's affecting budgets and project timelines and those kinds of things, especially how it relates to our world of acoustics. So I just had some found this data. So the NMHC, the National Multifamily Housing Council, has sort of at the beginning of the pandemic, or not long after it started doing a survey, somewhat regular survey of their members, a bunch of larger builders and things like that, to get information about how they're responding, what's going on with them throughout the pandemic and all of the issues that have come about. And I think this is really interesting to see how, this is, are you impacted by lack of materials? And so earlier in April of 2020, it was a little over 20% said that they were, most said that they weren't. Whereas in the latest one, right, in September, almost 100% of the respondents said that they were being impacted by lack of materials. So you're really seeing this increase, and it's increased significantly really this year. And then this is also, are you seeing price increases in materials? So the last 2 times they've done this, 100% of respondents have said, yeah, we're seeing price increases. And I think the average price increase was something like 13 or 14%. And I've got some information in here, kind of price increases for materials. So this is pretty widespread, broad. Everybody's being impacted by this, as I'm sure, you're all well aware. It's impacting the construction projects that we're working on, but it's also impacting us in our daily lives too, just trying to find things for our own homes. Here's a rising material price costs, right? So this is from U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. They do these monthly updates on, the pricing indexes for different commodities and products and things like that. So you can see, the orange line here is lumber and wood products, and the like teal kind of line over here is plywood. Wood prices skyrocketed a while ago, and that was something that you saw lots of headlines about and things like that. They've since come down, at least at the sort of the producer end of things. But if you go to Home Depot or something like that, those prices might still be high. Steel is something that has gone up dramatically and is still high, and I think is still continuing to increase. So we're seeing a lot of issues with steel pricing and things like that. Some other products have, not seen the dramatic spikes that lumber and steel have, but you've still seen, substantial price increases, 10, 20%, something like that in these, especially this year, much more so than your typical inflation or your changes in prices from year to year. So here's just like some year-over-year changes for these from 2019 to 2020. So you can see kind of, from pre-pandemic to the beginning, first year of the pandemic, kind of how things went. A lot of things went down. And then here's 2020 to 2021, right? So concrete, gypsum, those kinds of things haven't increased too much, but plywood, softwood, cold rolled steel, these things have increased pretty dramatically in their prices. And then here's the year-to-date changes. So you can see like cold rolled steel has gone up dramatically, whereas softwood, plywood have kind of started to come down. So here, I thought it'd be interesting to kind of just take a typical assembly and look at some of the price changes that have happened from August of last year to August of this year. So, plywood's gone up significantly, gypsum products have gone up, insulation materials, cold rolled steel, all of these different things in there have increased, some of them like dramatically. But just a note, PAX products, our pricing has stayed the same. We haven't increased prices on our products. And I'll let Mike later speak to any plans to for future increases or anything like that. But we have stayed pretty consistent in our product pricing over the years. So just something to keep in mind if you're wondering. We have not really increased prices or anything like that. So now let's kind of get into some scenarios. Like there's different scenarios beyond what I have in here where maybe we can help, like using our products or our expertise in fire and acoustics can kind of help navigate some product availability and pricing issues on projects. And we actually have an interesting example that we're working on right now. But these are some fairly common ones and ones that it existed and that we were talking about sort of before all of the supply chain issues and pricing things that have come about because of the pandemic and just everything going on right now. But they've become even more acute right now and more pertinent. So wood stud walls is one, right? Like a lot of times, if we want a good acoustical separation between two spaces, as acoustical consultants, one of our go-tos is a double stud wall. And double stud wall works well. There's a lot of reasons why that is the standard. But by using a single stud wall and the RSIC clip instead, as you see from these two test reports here, you can get comparable acoustical performance, at least in terms of the overall STC ratings. And you can reduce the thickness of the wall. You can eliminate an entire set of studs, which, with lumber prices, what they've done, that's significant. And there's also the labor of building that wall and also the environmental impact of the additional trees that are, necessary to produce that additional set of studs. And it reduces the width of your wall, like I said. And we've had some projects that we've worked on in the past where there was an original design for double stud walls, and they decided to go down to single stud walls with the RSIC clip. And they were actually able on an apartment building to get in like an extra set of units at the end of the building because they didn't, with the double studs, they didn't quite have enough like length available to them on their lot with setback requirements and all of that to get in that extra unit. But by shrinking the wall widths just a little bit, they bought enough space to add another unit. And if you think about, stacked up 5 floors, a couple units at the end of each floor, that's fairly significant, right? Without much additional cost for construction and things, but you get the additional rent of all of those units, or, if it's condos, the ability to sell more units. So there's some sort of like knock-on effects for being able to reduce your wall widths. Another way to think about this is kind of going the opposite way, right? So from our standard sort of like higher performance idea of a double stud wall to a single stud wall with resilient channel, kind of a more, bare bones market rate or type housing construction. But in order to get better ratings with that, you're typically adding on layers of gypsum board. Whereas with the RSIC-1, you get better isolation and also more consistent isolation with field installs, right? You've got fewer issues with short circuiting, poor installation, these kinds of things. And so you can eliminate a layer of gypsum board on each side and still get comparable acoustical performance in terms of your overall STC ratings. So there's obviously some, you've cut the cost of your gypsum board in half, you've reduced the labor by, roughly 50%. Your wall width is similar, right? The RSIC clip and the hat channel gives you a bigger offset, but you've reduced the thickness of your gypsum board, so your wall width is about the same. But you've increased the likelihood that you're going to get good field acoustical performance, and you've reduced the labor and cost of your gypsum board. Same thing applies to steel stud walls, right? Typically we see fairly comparable performance. These are 20 gauge steel stud. This is a true 20 gauge, either a 30 or a 33 mil steel. I think a lot of our tests have been on 33 mil 20 gauge studs. But you see, again, comparable acoustical performance, but you've eliminated 2 layers of gypsum board from the assembly. So again, that's a reduction in materials cost and labor costs for installing those additional layers of gypsum board. And in the same vein of reducing layers of gypsum board, so we have our RC1 Boost, which is a newer product. You know, the RSIC one's been around for a long time, I think familiar to most folks. The Boost is a little rubber isolator and a special screw that gets added onto resilient channel to improve the acoustical performance of the resilient channel. And it works with all kinds of resilient channel. We've tested it with, I think, 8 different types and seen similar improvements with all of them. So adding the Boost to the resilient channel can give you, you know, we're comparing these 2 assemblies. So one is with RC Deluxe and 2 layers of gypsum board. You know, if you've got an assembly like this and you're trying to improve the acoustical performance, one way that you would typically do that is like, okay, well, let's just add more mass to it. Let's add more mass to the ceiling layer. Let's double the layers of gypsum board, and we should get some improvement from that. So we show an alternative here that is, instead of adding that additional layer of gypsum board, we add the Boost to the RC Deluxe. And so you see that actually gets, you know, it's comparable STC performance. They're within a point of each other. It's sort of a negligible difference. But the IIC is 3 points better. The HIIC is a point better. So you get the same or better acoustical performance with the Boost, but you've eliminated a layer of gypsum board, right? So it's a 50% savings in material and about in labor for your, you know, ceiling install. The Boost also does give you a reduced chance of short circuits because it increases the offset from your gypsum board to the, you know, the bottom face of your structural member. So there's less chance that a screw is going to go and make contact and start to bite into that structural member if a screw that's too long is used or that there's really pressing. So it's compressing that resilient channel. Gives you a little bit of extra wiggle room there. And, you know, an extra layer of gypsum board, I don't really know what the labor, you know, material and labor cost is for that. We had some pricing from somebody a while back, and I think it was like $1.35 a square foot materials and labor. But with as much as prices are changing these days, it's hard to say exactly. Whereas for the Boost, again, based on some, you know, labor rates from a little while ago, but we've kind of estimated that at about 25 cents a square foot for materials and labor. So you're saving a significant amount of money using the Boost instead of a second layer of gypsum board, but you're getting equal or better acoustical performance. And in terms of product availability, we've got plenty of Boosts sitting in our warehouse ready to ship right now. So we don't have any product availability issues like that. So here's just to show the options of where you can use Boost. So I had a phone call, funny enough, just this morning from an architect who working on a project, certain resilient channel was specified. The drywall subcontractor is having a hard time sourcing it or getting enough of it or getting any of it, not sure. And so they're looking for alternatives, and the acoustical consultant on the project had suggested the Boost. So they're looking, you know, they're having availability issues trying to get resilient channel. And we've heard from some of our contacts at the drywall supply yards and things that RC Deluxe has been on allocation for some folks. So they're only getting a limited amount each month. And so we've been hearing, you know, kind of anecdotally through contacts that there's a lot of availability issues, you know, getting the kind of resilient channel that's been specified for a project. So we've tested the Boost with a bunch of different types of resilient channel and shown that it performs consistently and consistently performs as well as or better than sort of the industry standard of RC Deluxe. So you can use Boost with, you know, the readily available resilient channel to get comparable performance to Deluxe, which is usually going to be sort of the standard acoustical specification, right? Because it's the one that's got the most data and it tends to perform slightly better than the other types. And it also gives you, flexibility to shop around for price too. Since you can use a wide variety of different resilient channels, you can kind of look to see what you can get the best price on in that marketplace at that time. So it gives you some flexibility to address some of those product availability and pricing issues that are all too common right now. Apparently I had something recorded on that. So that's pretty much it. I did want to talk about one other thing, just another project that we're working on, another sort of anecdotal thing, is we actually had somebody contact us. They're working on a big project, and the builder can save over $1 million. I think it's like $1.2 million by switching from structural cement panels to plywood. And so, but they're trying to look at how they can get the acoustical ratings in their floor ceiling assemblies with plywood instead of the structural cement panels, trying to find test data for that, and also make sure that they maintain a fire rated, a UL fire rated assembly. And so we're working on that. And in order to, it's a steel C-joist assembly, so it's really hard to get it to perform decently acoustically, especially with just like a single plywood subfloor. So in order to maintain the acoustical performance, we're actually looking at spring isolators for the ceilings in these units. So we're looking at spring isolators as a means of cost savings on a project, which just seems kind of crazy because usually you think about springs as being really expensive and adding a lot of cost to a project in order to get the improved performance, acoustical performance of the springs. But in this case, they might actually wind up being a cost savings for this project because they allow them to save a lot of money elsewhere in other materials, and we use the springs to get the acoustical performance that they need. So that's about it. Just want to reiterate that we've got product in stock ready to go. We've got rivet clip, we've got the boost, we've got spring hangers, all of those things. And with that, I think we'll just kind of open it up to questions. Mike Gernhardt, if you're here and you have anything else you wanna add, especially talking about PAC's product availability and pricing moving forwards. Otherwise, we'll just open it up to questions.
Sure. So this is Mike Gernhardt. We're waiting for questions to come in. To finish off Mike's beginning part of the stock and pricing, the philosophy here at PAC is to have 6 months to 1 year supply of inventory at all times. So what that allows us to do, obviously, is we have a little bit bigger warehouse and we spend a little more money on inventory, but it allows us to fulfill those larger projects and all projects really kind of without having to worry about not being able to complete the next project that comes in. That's been our goal and kind of our philosophy over the years. Before PAC International was a product manufacturer, we ran a drywall supply warehouse. So we understand those logistical issues of how much product do I have for these next 20 projects I have coming up? Is there enough if another one sneaks in, or if one falls off, now I overstock? So we've taken all of our experience into account and tried to apply it to the industry a little differently than some other people do. And it's not always the most efficient way to run your business, but for us, it fulfills those project needs when they're needed, and hopefully helps reduce and stabilize costs. We've been able to hold our product pricing for our customers, I would say, I believe, for the last 7.5 years. It was the last time we had a price adjustment, and it actually was a price lowering. So we actually reduced price about 7 years ago when the market was coming back, and part of it was because we were able to increase the volume and streamline our production process. So we're always looking at putting together the most cost-effective version of our products without compromising our UL testing on our UL quality assurance program and/or any of our acoustical results. So just wanted to put that out there that we work really hard to make sure that our products are available and the price is stable, and that's important for us.
Yeah, So we've got a question that Mike, I think you already responded, but I'll just put it out for the group too. So from Ivan, are your products available in Canada? And Mike, you said we do ship to Canada. We have some distributors there, and you can also buy direct from us. So for those of you that aren't aware, on our website, the new website, packinternashonalllc.com, at the top, near the top of the website, well, I guess I can actually just go here and grab a new Zoom window and show you here. So on the website, there's a where to buy. So it'll show you a map of our distributors, and then there's also a buy direct option. We do tend to try and encourage folks to go through our distributors, but you know, for smaller projects or different things like that, you can go here. And also, when I'm talking to acoustical consultants and architects especially, you can go here and you can get an idea of retail pricing for our products. So, you know, sometimes when I was working as an acoustical consultant, I would get, you know, bids for things would come across products I had specified, and you know, I'd get feedback like, this is way too expensive, there's no way on earth we're putting this on the project. And then I would see the bid and it would just be outrageous what they had bid for the product. So here you can go and kind of use this as a reference. Obviously the prices from the distributors are going to vary, but this can give you an idea of the ballpark thing for these products. So something to keep in mind there. And yeah, just give us a call to discuss, you know, shipping and freight. Got a question from Cameron. What is the performance of RC1 Pro or other RC versus RC Deluxe? So I will put this up again. So we've done on this assembly, so this is an 18-inch open web truss, 3.5 inches of bad insulation. I think it was a 5/8 or 3/4 inch plywood or OSB subfloor, 3/4 inch gypsum concrete poured direct, and we had 2 millimeter rubber underlayment and engineered wood floor. And then we went and we tested all of these different options on it. So the RC Deluxe with a single layer of gypsum board was an ISC-55, and then we tested the Boost with all of these other types of resilient channel, and the STC was a 60, and the ISC was pretty much a 57 for everything. This one was a 56, but that's probably within test variability. So it was consistently a couple points better. And within our assembly test database online, we have a bunch of other test data with the Boost on the same assembly. Most of it we did with the Dietrich RC1 Pro. And so you can see there comparisons between that and RC Deluxe with other flooring finishes. We've got it with tile and LVT as well, and also on the bare gypsum concrete. So you can go and see all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, any other questions? And feel free, I think that we have it where folks can unmute their mics and they can just chime in and ask a question verbally. I don't think I have control to do that. If you'd like to ask a question, you can try unmuting, or you can just type it in the chat and I'll read it off so everybody sees it or hears it.
Yeah, the mics should be unlocked now. Jack Randorf.
Yeah, Jack Randorf. Just want to thank you guys ever so much. Say hi to Mike and appreciate all your good work and product.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Thanks for coming to this. We appreciate it, and always appreciate your support.
No problem.
Mike,
Also, hey Norrell, how you doing?
Yeah, I was just going to note the question from Cameron before was performance of the no boost on the other channels versus RC Deluxe.
Yeah, Norrell, thank you. I see now that I look back at that you're totally correct. Thank you for jumping in and correcting me on that. So we do have in the database that you can go in and you can find it in here. And I think we do have a couple tests. with the RC1 Pro versus Dietrich. So we can see, I think the ones, I'm pulling up stuff with Boost. I think we had it on an open web truss. So like, here's a bare assembly, and trying to find where we have a lot with Deluxe, but less with the RC1 Pro. Let me just see what I've got with the Pro. So here's this assembly, like a bare, the gypsum concrete. That was a 40, and I think the same thing with Deluxe was a 42, 43. So in that case, in the ISE, it was 2 or 3 points, and I think in here, that's what I've typically seen, is it was 2 or 3 points. And interestingly, where I've seen the biggest differences between the resilient channels, between Deluxe and pretty much all of the other ones, is actually in the low frequency performance, not as much the high frequencies. And actually, in 2 weeks, one of my presentations at ASA will be on using LIIC and HIIC to compare ceiling isolators. And in that, I talk about like the RC Deluxe testing that we have from all of this versus the tests that we have, comparable tests with other resilient channels. And you can see that, like if you plot them on a graph where I think I've got HIIC as the x-axis and LIIC as the y-axis, you see when you compare the RC Deluxe to the other RC channels, the dots on there just shift down. So for the same floor finishes and things like that, the HIIC is comparable, but the LIIC drops by several points. And by adding the boost onto it, everything moves diagonally. So it improves both the HIIC and the LIIC. So it's really interesting to see kind of how those things move around. And I'll be presenting that at ASA, and then afterwards I'll probably do a recording, another version of it, record it and put it on our YouTube channel for everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. You confirmed my experience from what I've been able to see. The RC1 Pro is like 2 or 3 points
Okay.
from the RC Deluxe, but some of the other channel from other companies can be much worse. Can be another 3 or 4 points lower.
Wow, even that much. And have you seen, Norl, similar differences in the field, or do you like? Does that gap close or does it expand in the field?
I don't have enough data to really talk about all the individual specific channels or anything, but some of the ones that are more solid can be worse off. The RC1 Pro is one of the better ones of the non-RC Deluxe grouping. And do note also that on the West Coast, you can now get a Semco product that seems to be comparable to RC Deluxe.
Yeah, we've been looking at that. We have not had a chance yet to test with it, but I think that that's something that we will try and do, is test it with and without the boost on this exact same assembly, so we've got really good apples to apples comparisons for it. And I'm really curious to see, based on what I was just saying about the difference in the low frequency performance, if that one, maybe matches Deluxe in overall IIC ratings and things, but maybe there's some difference at specific frequencies, or just to see really how it compares in more detail.
It looks like they've tried to do an identical copy.
In terms of its shape and layout of it does look pretty much identical. Mike and Elzo and I have noted that the RC Deluxe, the steel in it is also different in the way that it's worked, and I think the type of steel, it's a slightly different gauge than a lot of the other ones are. So there may be some other, besides just the shape of the dog bone cutouts and things, there may be some other sort of nuances in the construction of it that might also affect the acoustical performance.
The test data I've seen looks fairly comparable. Of course, you don't get exactly the same result in every test, but as you take the whole body of the test, of all the tests that are done, and sort of average them out, they look fairly comparable.
Okay. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of how that all pans out. Any other questions, or does anybody have I'm also just sort of interested to hear anecdotes of you know, product availability or pricing issues that people have been facing. You know, I was talking to the architect this morning that called about the Boost, and he was saying that, you know, one of the issues they've been running into is, you know, bids that they got for a project, you know, many months ago are no longer valid at all. And so then they, when it comes time to purchase materials and actually start construction, they're scrambling to kind of figure out ways to fit things into the budget that's no longer a realistic budget based on how much product prices have increased. So there's, you know, there's all kinds of hurdles that people are trying to address.
I would just like to thank you guys for putting out your seminar here.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. I think just for everybody to, so we've been doing these on a monthly basis, just trying to put out more information, just try and put out information that we think would be helpful. I think we're going to take a break for December just because with the holidays and things. And so I can focus on my ASA presentations, get those done, and then take a little break on presentations. But we should be back in January. And I think one of the next presentations that we're going to do, probably for January, is going to be on fire and acoustics. So fire is an area where PAC has a lot of experience and can really help out on projects. And there's just, since joining PAC in the almost a year now that I've been here, I've learned an awful lot about the UL fire rated assemblies, the designs, what goes into them, and have discovered some areas where I probably made poor recommendations as a consultant because I didn't know the implications in terms of the fire designs. And so there's some interesting bits of information in there that we'll go into and I think would be very helpful for folks.
Thank you ever so much.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. And yeah, Mike's just got a reminder here. Videos, the recordings of past webinars are available on our website and also on PAC's YouTube channel. So you can go back and listen to those.
Very good. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And if there aren't any other questions, we'll just hang out for a couple more minutes just in case somebody thinks of something. But otherwise, thank you all for joining us. Have a great day, a great weekend, and a good Thanksgiving holiday for all of you.
Same to you, and a special hello to Mike Gernhardt.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack. Good to see you again or hear from you again.
It's been a long time.
Yes, sir.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Jack.
Care.